Hello and welcome to the Driving Maul Show. Hi, I'm Paul. I'll be your host this evening. And look at that, my black eye actually is getting better. It's going down a bit, isn't it? That's good. That's nice to see. Just thought I'd keep it on topic, Steve. How you doing, sir?
Good. Good to be back again. Have a little chat. Rip a squad apart. No, it's not that bad, is it? It's not that bad.
So yes, folks, we will talk about the squad. And that's the All Black squad, by the way. We'll also run through all of the action from the weekend. Not that I've seen that much of it. I watched the All Blacks versus the Wallabies. We did have some streaming issues during the second half, but hey, that's what happens when you're using satellite internet. There we go. So unfortunately, we had a slight little hiccup there, so I missed a little bit of the second half, but apart from that, all good. And then also. I've watched the highlights of the Springboks the Pumas versus the Springboks as well over in Argentina. What about yourself, sir? What was your rugby weekend like?
Not as busy as it has been in previous ones, that's for sure. But saw the All Blacks game. Of course, that was enough of watching live rugby for me. Saw the highlights pretty much of all the other games, or else I wouldn't have slept all night. If you watch. Scotland playing fantastically, and the Springboks and putting our picks of Wales. It was a nightmare. But it was a good weekend. It's a good weekend. No sleep though.
So last week, not on this channel, but over on Steve's Owen Cornflakes YouTube channel, we did do a preview of all of the games that you posted up. And yes, our predictions were all over the shop compared to that. I'm going to blame it on weird squads, as it's all to do with Rugby World Cup warm-ups and looking for, and everyone not they're not taking these games properly seriously, as in it's not about the game, it's about what's happening in a month or so's time. So yes, that's my excuse, but thankfully I didn't put any money on a multi, because boy oh boy, we'd have lost that very quickly. Absolutely in that one. So let's just run through a few results before we get into that Bledisloe Cup 2. First off, Samoa beat Tonga 34-9. So good win for Samoa there. You saw that one, not live then, because that was on free to air TV at the same time as the All Blacks game.
No, what you have 3 monitors here, Paul. So you have All Blacks, everything else, other game that you're kind of watching on the side, but you're not really watching. But yeah, it was going. That was at the same time. So no, it wasn't a bad matchup actually. That one, it was as you kind of expect from those two sides, but definitely skill level has got increasingly well up on those sides than they were, 4 or 5 years ago. That's for sure.
It's looking at it from a stats point of view, territory possession pretty even. The number of runs about 20 odd more for Samoa than Tonga, but boy oh boy, when they ran, did they run well? Because 526 meters for Samoa, only 196 for Tonga, so way more than double of just 20 more runs. Very well done by by Samoa there in that one. Tackling a bit off by both teams, in all honesty, 82%, 78%. So that they're going to want to improve that before the Rugby World Cup, especially when you think about Samoa's kind of group. They're going to want to have a bit more around that set piece if they're going to cause an upset. And Tonga's line out 70%. Boy oh boy, losing 6 line outs. That's if you don't have a set piece and you don't have a platform to play off, you're going to struggle, and that's part of it. 5 clean breaks to Samoa, 0 from Tonga. As Nocturnal Right says, Tonga not clicking despite resources they have with new players, and that's it. They haven't been playing with each other ever. It's not like you can. Okay, Samoa hasn't had the same time together as, say, the All Blacks or in England or France do, but at least they know each other and have played with each other last year for a game or two. So there's something there to build off. From Tonga, they're just building from 0. So they just need as much game time between now and the beginning of the World Cup as they can get, really. But yeah, that's my thoughts. Looking at it from a stats point of view, really impressed with how Samoa's tracking.
Yeah, no, they look good, and you're right. Speaking of those stats, they were happy to run from anywhere. although the game was a lot more structured than you normally see, 4 or 5 years ago from a Tonga or Samoa, they were still much like in the Fiji game. They were just going at it from which way, trying to create the space. Tonga, they were very, they struggled to break the initial line and break the initial tackles. So I think they had a lot of ball, they had a lot of attacking chances, and they just couldn't really break down that defense. It was good to see, though. Samoa are a bit more open and free-flowing. I think Tonga will come better as the tournament wears on, though. I think they looked like they could do something if they had a bit more of that time together to get that structure in place and kind of get their game plans together to work a bit nicer than they did. But I think the basics were there for the Tongans, which was always good to see. But Samoans, you could tell, were a few weeks ahead and a bit more comfortable to chance their arm than the Tongans were, and it showed in the way it played out. But it was a good match. It definitely, the Tongans tested the Samoans' defense. They pounded away. It's like long periods that they had the ball phase after phase after phase, which is something that they typically would struggle with. So a good pile of developments, I guess, in the way that they're playing.
Yeah, after England's result for the weekend, I'm starting to worry about the Rugby World Cup now, having seen Samoa play. But anyway, we'll move on from that. We'll get to England later. Japan 12, Fiji 35. So again, Fiji, another team tracking really, really well, and obviously some big with Australia. Well, Australia maybe slightly finally clicking, but Wales. Well, actually, they all might maybe clicks as well. But two teams at Fiji, I think they have a good bite at now. They've had seen off Japan. Now Japan admittedly had a red card after 7 minutes, and I'm assuming this was a proper red card rather than the fun and games we have nowadays. So Japan playing with 14 men for 73 minutes. And now Simon mentioned, Tom Wright mentions that Fiji had 3 disallowed tries as well. But I'm not sure, how much can Fiji take from this, do you think, with the fact they were playing against 14 men for most of the game?
Fiji were amazing. They were brilliant. They were entertaining. They were fun. I actually watched this game as well. I completely forgot about this one even happening. This is what happens when these are the earlier games. By the time you get to the end of the weekend, you've forgotten about the ones at the start of the weekend. No, this game was fun. This game was exciting. The red card was bad. Just plowed straight into a ruck, smashed the guy in the head. Bad. No excuses. You can't argue with it. But Fiji, they played so Fiji-like. They were just running from, it was just so cliche, Fiji rugby, but they're a lot better than they used to be. They're not just all about chucking the ball out wide. They've got a lot more structure about their game, but still when they want to go and when they're returning a kick, the offloads start coming out, the big legs start pumping. They're just so exciting and powerful to watch. They were a tier above Japan in that matchup. Well, Japan did come back late, but I think Fiji had kind of run out of puff at that stage. They'd been running length of the field, scoring all these disallowed tries. He stole my point there, Nocturnal. I was going to say, a number of tries that they went into the corner and were disallowed for a little thing back in the play. The TMO kind of took over that game, calling it back after he's sitting there lining up a conversion. But yeah, they were fun. Fiji were fun. They were very expressive. I think they had that freedom of knowing they had that advantage, and they threw it all out there. And to be fair, that scoreline flattered Japan. That's how well, especially the points they scored at the end, Japan. But that the 30-odd that Fiji scored should have been much, much more. Definitely much, much more. They were exciting, fun, and dangerous. Look out.
Yeah, all of Japan's points came in the last 10 minutes, folks.
Yes.
But look, Fiji missing 32 tackles in this game, only tackling at 78%. They need to do better than that come Rugby World Cup.
How many then come in the last 10 minutes though as well? Because they completely went to sleep. Like you could tell they were done. They were like, we're so far ahead. There's 8 minutes to go, and Japan really looked good, but you could tell Fiji they weren't interested at that point. They had such a big lead.
So I'm not sure. I'm not going to take too much from this game or put too much weight on this result. I'll put more weight on the Samoa result than I will on this one, personally.
Yeah.
Moving on then, heading up to Europe, Scotland versus France. Now, I'm listening to a Scottish podcast. Apparently, Scotland went into this game as favourites, which was like, what?
Did they?
Okay.
Wow.
So with the bookmakers, and well done to the Thistle podcast to kind of all went with their hearts, I think, rather than their heads with their predictions. But hey, well done to Scotland beating France 25-21. This one really does put is a definite. So if anyone was walking into this one complacent, thinking, you know what, Ireland, South Africa, they're going to just qualify from their pool, no hassles. Boy, oh boy, Scotland are turning up now. True, this was a first choice Scotland team against a second choice French team. I get that, but even so, to have got this result was very good. Look, 28 and 26 kicks from hand here, so much more than we saw in those Pacific. Now it's not Pacific Nations Cup, Pacific Nations Series games.
Who knows anymore?
A bit more, well, exactly. Yeah. A bit more. What do you call it though? A bit more sort of, I guess, normal style of play. I think from these two. Now, no clean breaks from Scotland, which is going to be a little bit worrying. But hey, so we've got. I think this
match with 14 men too. Remember as well.
Sorry,
they got a red card very early on as well.
Well, after 51 minutes. So in the second half, yeah.
They were down 19-3 or 19-6 at that point or something. They were down by a lot as well. So they were down by a lot, losing a man. How Scotland? What just happened? No, I had a comment this morning talking about this on stream, and one comment, well, one man was mentioned. All the comments was just Finn Russell, magical, best fly half in the world. They're going crazy in Scotland. They think he's God. They really do.
Yeah, no, you're right. All of France's points came before the red card, so they were 21 points, and most of Scotland's points came after the red card. So 2 of their tries came after the red card. So yes, wow, crazy game by the sounds of it. But yeah, wake up, folks. Yeah, that pool B is definitely interesting with Scotland in there. Tonga, unfortunately, not living up to what we hoped with their players back yet. Steve still thinks they've got a chance of ramping up before then, but we'll see. So well done, Scotland.
If we did anything on that Scotland game, it's like if you're a fan of any team playing against Scotland, or you're a fan of Scotland, you'll know this already. But you need to get wingers that can defend Darcy Graham on the crossfield kick. If you want any chance of beating Scotland, you need to defend Darcy Graham. With ball in hand is good as well, but that crossfield kick, I think the highlight reel of the last 2 matches of Scotland have been 50% Darcy Graham crossfield kicks from whoever's at 10, Finn Russell, whatever, it doesn't matter. That is a weapon. And I don't know, he's not a huge man by any stretch. He's not like he's Israel Folau flying out there climbing on people's backs, but he just does it. He does it well, and expect to see that pumped out at the World Cup. And yeah, and also you need to have a big winger on the other side because Stein's going to be walking. They've got the South African Stein going to be running at you. So Van der Merwe.
Van der Merwe. So I meant Van der Merwe rather than Stein. Stein's the backup, isn't he? He's the reserve. So yes. So yeah, Scotland looking good. Wales 20, England 9. Now we did not see this one coming. We even had your editing man pick out an edit where I corrected you, saying that Wales are going to be favourites in this game.
I was right. See, I was right.
You were right, even though you said it by accident. England just 3 penalties in 2 in the first half, 1 in the second. Really got to be worrying there. Even though they made 5 clean breaks, could not get over the whitewash. Wales, on the other hand, both these teams, I think, were a bit experimental. Wales coming into this with senior players resigning and deciding not to make themselves available for every World Cup. A Six Nations where the only game they beat one was against Italy. This was something that Wales really needed this win. I think this win is very good for them from a morale point of view. Lee Halfpenny, unsurprisingly, slotting over 100% of the kicks. Gareth Davis and George North going over for tries. So it's a bit of a kind of name. Which year are we? Which year are we in?
Yeah, roll back the clock.
We could be. So well done. So something that I think Wales will really appreciate. Now England, though, only winning 10 out of the 15 of their lineouts. Boy, oh boy, if you're going to do that kind of lineouts, you're going to struggle. A lot of kicking in this game, 34 by Wales, 20 by England. So I think a lot of territory, I haven't seen it, but I'm guessing a lot of territory battle there with that. Yeah, Wales a bit worried about the scrum, losing 5 of their own put-ins.
Wow.
Ouch. So some set piece issues for both of these teams to sort out over the next few weeks. 24 turnovers conceded by England. Yeah, piss poor by England, to put bluntly. Looking at the stats, I say I've not seen it, but I'm worried now. Come Rugby World Cup, I was quietly confident that, hey, England again in not the hardest pool with Japan, Argentina, Samoa, and Chile. Now at least Japan's doing the decent thing and playing badly, so I don't have to get too. I can get some sleep at night, but yeah, very worried after this.
You should be worried about those Pumas. I tell you should be worried about those Pumas. They are going to cost England. They are going to cost England. Someone's going to cost them. That pool, you talk about it being not so difficult. I mean, bar the one next to it where you got that real congestion of Ireland and all that in there. I think this is the next best thing for a possible upset. So, yeah, look, watch out for the Pumas. England are in a bit of trouble. They're in a bit of worry. No, it's the Australia, Wales, and this whole tournament is so close and tense. It's crazy. Like you can't. I want to see England full strength. That's what I want to see. That these B teams and C teams. I mean, it's good to see the development. I mean, Wales have pulled out a couple of players from that team that they'll probably consider to be competitive for their starting team going forward, like their first team that they played so exceptionally well. England, on the other hand, have probably answered a few questions of guys that they thought were in their first team plans now won't be so much in those first team plans. So it's good for them, but I don't think we can really gauge too much for that tournament, big crunch games on these sort of B team, C team hybrid teams that we're getting at the moment. Still fun though.
It is. I'm worried from Romania though. Losing 17-31 to the USA, who aren't going to the Rugby World Cup. Oh dear. So yeah, Romania, I think, are in for a tough time when they've got South Africa, Ireland, Scotland, and Tonga in their groups. If you can get any money on a multi that means they lose all their games, take it, because that's looking like easy money to me. At the moment, yeah, very poor from them. Again. A set piece that's not firing on lineouts, and if you're losing lineouts to the USA, you're going to lose a lot to Scotland, lose a lot to South Africa and Ireland. Yeah, not much more to say about that one really. If you're losing to a team that made the Rugby World Cup,
not good. That's disappointing, and sad. That's better we can describe it. You kind of want your World Cup teams to be showing up now, don't you? And maybe they shouldn't have booked that game. They shouldn't have booked that one. They should have booked the game against like Uruguay or Georgia or something like that. Just at least so you can go like, well, at least it's a World Cup opponent.
Next up, Ireland versus Italy. Ireland winning 33-17. Ireland giving a whole bunch of players an opportunity in this one. Yeah, not so right. It's 1981 All Blacks versus Romania. Test score 14-3. Yeah, those days have gone. But a big difference in this one is that is a tackling. 93%, 92% from both these teams. So two teams that are okay. Italy disappointed after this result and disappointed after their results in the Six Nations, but I still think they are a team that Colin Crowley has got well coached, even if they haven't got the right right results so far. LB by the way says Romania have the best kit though. Well, if you want to know about kits, we did a video about a week or 2 weeks ago now about the kits. So go watch that, and we'll tell you all about the Rugby World Cup kits that we in there. You can find that both on my channel and on Cornflakes channel if you want to go and check that out. A hell of a lot of work having to done by Italy in this game. They had to make over 200 tackles, whereas only 114 by Ireland. So need twice as many tackles. Ireland really showing that playing that kind of rugby we're used to now, which is possession rugby and just smashing teams. So, yeah, Ireland looking like they're in the right place, heading towards this Rugby World Cup.
Yeah, Ireland look good. I think Italy look as expected. I don't think they're not really letting anyone down too much. Their performances, I think they're doing what you kind of maybe a little bit over what you kind of expect from them. But yeah, I think they're not getting completely wiped off the floor, smashed. They're trekking on that middle road. I think they'll turn up. They'll beat the teams they should beat, and they'll lose to the teams above them. And that's probably about the best they can really hope for. The way they're going, yeah, Ireland's going to be about where they, on the right sort of track as well, expectantly up there. But I think a lot of teams, like I said before, are still learning a lot about their players and their squads and the way that they're going to work their teams as well. So for Ireland to kind of pull out this performance, I guess, against an Italian team that could have given them a bit more trouble, I think they'll probably be quite pleased with how they've come away with this one.
Yep. Argentina versus South Africa. Argentina led 10-3 at halftime, but lost 13-24 in the end. Perhaps there an element of the Springboks putting out an experimental team or a fringe team that took a while to gel and get going. Horrendous attempted tackle, which saw we saw a concussion guy going off in that first half. Please don't tackle head first into big players. It's just not going to work. And that'll be another player that may not make it to the Rugby World Cup. Now, very different to some of the other games here. Set piece, absolutely rock solid from both teams. Two very different styles here. Argentina had 17 lineouts. South Africa had 6, which tells you Argentina were kicking in field a lot, even with their clearance kicks, saying, "Okay, we're not going to let you have a set platform to play off. You're going to have to run it back through and try and build something from broken play," which is an interesting tactic that some other teams might try against the Springboks, Steve.
Yeah, well, it's all about learning, isn't it? Really, I think the biggest thing is that out of this matchup for South Africa, well, there's probably 2 things out of it for them. Bad is the injury to Lekanyo arm. That could be I was just having a look to see if there's any news. I couldn't really find anything concrete about what's wrong with him. Just that it could potentially be bad. If that is bad, that's going to be bad for South Africa as well. Although the depth is there, we know about that, which is the second part of it for them. That's positive, is that they rolled out their team. Yeah, they were a bit rusty from the start, but you can only make those 8 replacements. So you're not replacing the whole team. So they got a lot of guys out there that, I'd like to say, fringe selection even. The guys that are not even really probably in that 33-man sort of area, still coming out there and putting in a good performance. But yeah, tactically, I mean, I think we know they're kind of similar sort of sides, aren't they, in the way that they do like to control the game with their set piece and their forwards. Great to see Augustine Creevy, 100 caps as well for him. So big congrats to Augustine on that, which is like a talisman player for the
and also the first ever player to do it for the Pumas.
Yes, yeah, he is too. That's right. So massive for him, massive for Argentina. I just think they're just not a team you can write off heading forward into the World Cup. I think they've got a very deep squad, very deep pack, very deep backline. They've got a lot of continuity in their team. As much as it pains just about anyone in World Rugby to say it, Chick is coaching them fairly decently as well. I think he's got a good little job about it. I think they're going to be dangerous. And South Africa's a hard nut. It's a hard nut to beat, no matter where you are or who you are. So tough one to call on, but I'm curious and interested to see how they're going to travel on the rest of their build up towards their opening game of the World Cup.
Yeah, look, 145 minutes running for Argentina, 552 from South Africa. Now, does that mean South Africa was doing free-flowing, throwing it around rugby? No, that means their running back kicks a lot. So lots of free meters there with that 500. That's not a Fiji 500 meters running. Put it that way.
And the Springboks have got a big decision to make for their squad, though, when they do name their World Cup. I think on Thursday, Well, that could be the Wallabies. It's this week anyway. For their outside backs or their wings specifically, how many they're going to go for. When you've got Aaron who's playing well, Cannon Moody had a fantastic game in the weekend versus Argentina, who wasn't probably in the mix. He was probably on that outer side. Now he's played a fantastic game. He's got himself in there. Now the calls are, is Mapimpi good enough to get into that mix as well? And then you got Colby who's still in there, but maybe Colby, you could cover him as a fullback, but you're still on that outside backs with Willie LaRue and Willemse. Where does Willemse fit in there? Not really as a 10. I mean, it's great to have depth, but man, the selections going, there you go, Tuesday. Thanks, Albie. The old selectors are going to be, they're going to be kept busy, and they're going to live and die in these selections too, whether they're successful at this tournament or not, because they're going to be like, well, if you only picked this player, maybe it would have been different. You've got to pick the king, though. Come on, Mapimpi's in, surely.
Now, when we get to the All Blacks one, you'll notice there's a very difference there as to kind of like, because one of the things, whilst Steve might be throwing a few of the players under the bus or out of the under the bus rather than onto the bus for the All Blacks, I've got to ask him who he's going to replace him with, and you'll notice that it's just not really. We've had some chat in our rugby chat, and we're like, my God, how did he make it? And the answer is, okay, well, who else would you put there? I can't think of anybody that's not injured. Okay, right. So that's why some of the players that say yes. Look, the All Blacks, don't get me wrong, are playing very well at the moment. They've won every game this year. They'll be happy with where they're at, but there isn't a massive amount of depth. There's a good 30 odd players, and then in certain positions it falls off a cliff quite quickly. So different issues, or perhaps makes it a lot easier actually for Ian Foster at the moment in that regard. A couple more games before we can actually get on to talking about Bledisloe Cup 2. Uruguay beat Namibia 26-18, perhaps closer than I gave it credit for during our chat, to be honest. On that one, I've got nothing to say about it really.
Well played, Namibia.
And Chile lost to an Argentina 15, 13-40 there with that one. So yes, backing up that Argentina do have depth, and Chile will enjoy being at their first Rugby World Cup in a long time. Was it first ever even? But I'm not expecting them to be pulling up trees at the Rugby World Cup. Let's be honest. So that's all the games apart from Bledisloe Cup 2, which saw New Zealand beat Australia 23-20. So comfortable, another win by the steamrolling All Blacks, who are marching on with the perfect season so far. Steve, or was there a little bit more to it than just the scoreline?
Oh, it was when they have pre-season and they have those game of three halves where they play like three different teams and they split their own squad apart. That's what this literally was. This was like All Blacks 15 or whatever that other team is called now. And then they kind of swapped most players at halftime, and it was, the All Blacks are back. Oh, what's happened? No, this was far from plain sailing. Anyone who even caught highlights of this match saw it was anything from plain sailing. But there's a number of ways you can describe this matchup. I've gone for the All Blacks have gone, here you go, Australia. You have the ball for this 40 minutes. Here you go. You have it. We'll just aimlessly kick it at you. You just do what you want with it. You score as many points. When you're a kid and you're playing games, and you're like, well, you have the ball and you do what you can. And then after, halftime at lunch, I'll have the ball and I'll see how many points I can score. That's exactly what this game was about. The All Blacks were pointlessly kicking the ball away. There was no real intention, not really looking for anything rather than just getting it out of their hand. And then half-time came, second half rolled around, game plan just significantly changed. The Wallabies hardly touched the ball, and it was the game of catch-up, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we've got a nice close game to finish with, and we got a nice exciting end to it. But it's hard. I don't really blame the players so much, because that game plan, if you told me that was the same game plan for that whole 80 minutes, then I would not believe you at all. It was
okay. But let's rewind a bit. Okay. We have seen the All Blacks play a certain way this year across nearly all their games, right? Which involves zero or next to zero territory kicking, and lots of contested ball, lots of cross-field kicks. This game, that went out the window, and suddenly, in that first half in particular, the All Blacks suddenly started to kick for territory. And you're like, okay, Damon McKenzie, this is how you've been playing for the Chiefs, right? This is the Chiefs game plan. This isn't the All Blacks game plan. I don't think he was executing the game plan he was supposed to be. So I don't blame the game plan here. I do blame the player who's there, because there was definitely a different style, a different way of playing, particularly in that first half than we've seen. Now, Damon McKenzie has got the lion's share there of the responsibility because he does have a Will Jordan at fullback. He doesn't have a Beauden Barrett there. But even so, I don't know, was it that the forwards weren't giving him the platform to kick off and play off, or was it that that he was kicking to a difference? We were kicking basically not to the game plan the other players were expecting, and that's why things fell apart in that first half. But he definitely didn't make a push to replace Mo'unga as a starting 10.
Well, you're never going to know, are you? You're never going to know what that first half game plan was unless you're in a little secret dark room with Foster and he tells you, like, no, that he actually stuffed up. It could be either or. I mean, fact of the matter is, whatever the game plan was, it didn't make McKenzie look good, or he didn't play well. I'm going with the both, actually, to be completely honest with you. But McKenzie, for me, throw him completely gone from my picture of being a number 10 jumper. If I'm selecting anything, that game told me one thing, and it's one thing we've known for about 6 years now. He's a fullback, out and out fullback. That's it. Come in, join the line, be a little playmaker now and then. But he's just, his game style suits. Like, when's the last time you saw an All Black 10 run sideways that much? Like, Mo'unga very rarely does it, and he does straighten up pretty quickly as well. McKenzie just runs, just aimlessly going, where's the hole? Is there one round here? Fullback. What does a fullback do? Scan. There's a hole, shoulder. I'm going for that little gap there. That's a fullback skill, and he's very good at it. Broken play from kicks, very good. When he was his most impactful, he was returning kicks back at the line with one of his back three guys. That's where he was, I think, at his best. It just, when there's structure, when there's a set piece, and he's running things at 10, he just doesn't offer that much. I just didn't think he was that exciting with that sort of game plan. Put him at fullback, fielding kicks, running it back. Different player. Great player. Exceptional player. Kicking, no good. Will Jordan's kicking, no good either, by the way. I'm putting him under the bus too.
Got to also give some props to the Wallabies here. Look, they suddenly clicked, particularly in that first 10 minutes, right? Where they scored their 2 tries. A player that or the player that you said was even playing last week, Kellaway, appearing on people's shoulders, running for 100 meters off 8 runs, 2 clean breaks, 3 defenders beaten. He had a cracking first half, being in the right place at the right time to take those offloads and to create. He did half of the two out of the 4 breaks, clean breaks that the Wallabies had. So he had a cracking game. Also in the live chat that McWright and Hooper at 7 and 6 had a good game as well. Also, Wright says he should have had 4 tries in that first half. Well, you should have, would have, could have. They need to be more clinical. That's what we've been talking about this whole time for the Wallabies. They don't finish off points. They don't finish off tries. Now, they got it right in that first 10 minutes and nailed it, but they need to be more clinical if they're going to go deep in this Rugby World Cup. Now, the draw helps them. We all know that. But if they're going to win those key games in the quarterfinals, semi-finals, they're going to need to be a lot more clinical. But this is a good step in the right direction, I think, for them.
Yeah, you can heap all the praise on the Wallabies. I was just putting the boot into the All Blacks at the first because I could.
Oh yeah, I invited you to do that.
From an All Blacks perspective, this was a good game. From my perspective of viewing this game, this was a good game because we got to see a number of things. We got to see players under pressure. We got to see players in circumstances they're not okay, they haven't been in this season, because most things have been, early leads or generally under control, or they're within a chance. I think personally, the Wallabies, I agree, the comments from Nocturnal there, they should have scored a lot more points. And yes, that is their issue. But to go into that with, was it 14-3 at halftime? I think the All Blacks scored 3 points.
3-17.
17-3. There we go. So, 14-point lead. Not enough. You go into that halftime break and you're like, for a team that has dominated this game this much, really, they should be going in with a lot more points behind them. So that would be the criticism. But yeah, they were good. They were bumping through tackles. The All Blacks weren't defending fringe very well. They weren't tackling very well. 3 or 4 players to put guys like Angus Bell, who was, again, exceptional, down. Just they were so good at running the ball. But they had the ball. And I think that's the key thing. I think the All Blacks have kind of given World Rugby a bit of a heads up here. They're saying, if you want to beat the Wallabies, this is what you don't do. Don't just give them free ball, okay? Starve them of possession, and they're not going to win a game when they've only got a handful of chances. You give them a truck full of chances, they're going to take them. The players are good enough that they're not going to throw away a half full of chances. You starve them of those opportunities, keep the ball away from them, and then you got a recipe to beat the Wallabies. So they're doing a bit of a world global service of World Rugby here to show teams the two contrasts of style to play against the Wallabies. But no, they've got good players. I mean, their back row's playing very well. I think their front row, if they can keep them fit, are playing very well, regardless of who seems to be rotating that door out to the number 1 and 3 jerseys. But yeah, all good. I think who's going to captain the team next time is going to be a bit of a question mark for old Tate. Yeah, but Carter Gordon played well. I think he was quite good in the first half as well, running the ball quite nicely. You can credit all the Wallabies. They played well in that first half, but again, don't give them the ball. No one's a star, and they just got shut out.
Yeah, and the obviously injuries are going to be a worry for both. Well, thankfully, I mean, Britannic's been named today in the squad, so hopefully, his injury isn't too important, too bad. Braden Ennor didn't get named. Perhaps that's why he wasn't named. But we'll discuss that later. But as you said there, 1 and 3 is going to be a problem for the Wallabies, especially that tight headspace, because one of the because their replacement into tight head, Famasuli, 4 penalties given up in this game there. So clearly needs to sort out his particularly scrummaging, but also other parts of his game. Twice Williams, the guy he was opposite, the loose head for the All Blacks, 3 penalties. So their side of the scrum won't work in some reason. So the referees had enough of both of them, I think. Lots of problems there on that side. But yeah, tight head the Wallabies are blessed with some really good props. The problem is keeping the 4 of them fit, basically. You got Bell, Alan Alatoa, and Tupu, obviously on the other side. But unfortunately, I think they're going to struggle because it's going to run out of props the way that they're falling at the moment in that one. So yes, from the other good thing is that Eddie Jones has found his side, right? Now, he definitely spent the first few games kind of trying to figure out who the hell he was going to play. Now he's figured it out. And we're seeing the fruits of that they're heading in the right direction. As we've said, their Rugby World Cup, the opening game against Georgia, then they play Fiji. Look, have a set piece, and you got a good chance if Fiji aren't going to turn up with a set piece. Wales, and then Portugal. Portugal will be an easy one there, but they don't have to be all guns blazing. All guns blazing. Jeez, oh, dear me. From day one. So things are looking actually good for Australia if they can keep enough front row forwards fit.
Yeah, I think they'll cruise through. They'll cruise through without too much worries. The Fiji will be fun. I think I'd like to watch that. I think they'll give their backs some exciting play to keep up with. But I think they're in a good position. I think they're a lot better now than they were 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, whatever the start of the Rugby Championship was. They've sorted themselves out. the players have a bit more responsibility, but also they know where they're going, they know what they're playing, they kind of know who they're playing with. They've done it a couple of weeks now. That's starting to show those sorts of benefits from doing that. But yeah, you got to keep guys fit because when you start throwing new guys in there, new guys to the squad, hooker, a debut at hooker off the bench. Oh, I never ever heard of that guy. Granted, I didn't see much Super Rugby this year, and I was just like, where's he come from? So the whole front row really is issues for them as well. So
yes,
that's what they got to. If they look after that, but it's such an unknown, isn't it? Such an unknown. How far do you go? Do you just play those guys against Wales? Leave the other guys one game in 4 weeks. It's a bit risky to be out of the fold and out of the action for that long too at a tournament like that, and then go bang into a big quarterfinal matchup. So
no, I think
it's going to be tough already.
It's going to be tough. I think he's got to play this team.
I think so. And they'll all be broke.
And just hope, just hope that you don't break too many of them along the way.
Exactly.
Yep. There on that one. So there we go. But as you say, it's on came Richie Mwanga. And a few of his other mates as well, with Coles, Tongafasi, Newell, and they managed to sort of turn things round in that second half with the All Blacks. But it does definitely show you why, or one of the things we were talking about there is that the All Blacks' first choice 23 is doing the business and is good. There's a couple of players in there that we might debate. Caleb Clark, but yeah, that's a few injuries, and boy oh boy, I think the All Blacks are going to be in a bit worried if they're heading into the knockout stage of the Rugby World Cup with 3 or 4 injuries in specific players. It could get very thin.
Yep. What I did like about their match, though, before we finish on it, it was a challenge. They gave the All Blacks a challenge. They had to come back, they had to fight back, they had to claw back, and then they had to finish. So pressures, last-minute kick to win, fighting to get back into a game, not let it get away again, just all those sorts of things that they've not really experienced this year. And I feel like they needed to experience that before the World Cup, just to have that experience. And now I feel they're a bit better prepared. They've been in that situation. It's a lot different to a World Cup playoff for sure, but still, they're in that situation. They've had a bit of experience in it. All they needed was a drop goal and preparation complete.
Oh dear, the All Blacks don't do drop goals. We know this. So let's have a look at the squad that was announced. You can get our immediate reaction to this squad. As a recording that Stephen and I did, and I've realised again, for some reason I just can't get that one extra bloody line in there.
Just put Caleb Clark at the bottom, so we just pretend he's not in the team.
Pretend he's not there. Okay, so props that are on the aeroplane. Easton de Groot, Timothy Williams, Ofa Tongafasi, Tyrrell Lomax, Neapo Lualala, and Fletcher Newell. Look, we've already had a chat in our live chat when our friends have gone, oh my God, what the hell is Ofa doing there? And I said, well, who are you going to put in there? And he's like, Joe Moody. It's like, well, no. It's like he's injured. So basically, look, whilst I guess there are a couple in here that I know you're not going to like in the props, is there? I think they really pick themselves. Is there really anyone else?
Yeah, no. That's fine. I'm okay with that. The problem was going to be we didn't think they were going to take 6, did we? We were picking on 5. So it's when it comes to the 6 that you kind of were, will they leave out La'alala? Will they leave out Tongafasi? Will they leave out Williams? Or will they leave out Newell? Because he hadn't been in the mix until before last weekend. So, yes, we knew de Groot, we knew Lomax, and I thought La'alala was pretty safe, although he had a bit of not a great game in the weekend, but he'd been in there for a long time now in that mix. No real massive injuries that seen him out. I thought he was safe in there as well. It was picking 2 out of those other 3. I thought that was going to be the big contentious point. I like the fact that they've gone with the extra one, although I think it does hurt the back row a little bit. But I'm just happy to see Tamati Williams there. I don't care if he only plays against Namibia. I just think he's a guy of the future that needs to be in this environment. And especially next year, he's going to make a big difference. He's going to be, I think, a starter. He's going to be in this team for a long, long time. So I'm glad that we've got the young blood in there with the rest of them. So it's good. I'm happy with that. Like I say, there's not a huge amount else that you would really throw in there aside from injuries.
Yep. So there we go. So it's so nice. So that's we'll agree with that one. Hookers, Taylor, Takilaho, Coles, pretty much again. They pick themselves. George Bell is also travelling as an injury cover. So that's why he's at the airport. So he's kind of got a ticket on the airplane, but he's not allowed to play. So he'll be training and out there at the
sampling wine,
eating cheese. What a good life. What a good life. Bit surprised he's been picked ahead of Asfam Amua.
He's injured.
Who's injured? Okay.
Well, returning from injury, so that's why he was on the
So I would have thought Amua was ahead in the pecking order there. But we do know that historically, he hopefully has improved, but he has come back. Amua has come back from the off season out of shape before, so you can understand maybe he's not the best player to go as a travelling injury cover where there's cheese and wine available.
I'll be right there with them.
Into the locks, obviously Barrett, Ritalik, Whitelock, match day 23. The only argument is which one goes on the bench. Yep. Topu Va'ai gets the fourth slot. Initially, it looked like Josh Lord might be in with a shout there, but Topu Va'ai gets the nod there. I think he's generally considered to be the more experienced of the two of them, but I did wonder whether they would take all five and perhaps not have a space in the back row. But they've ended up going with 6 back 3 players rather than the 5 that I think they really need. I don't really think they need that many. Nocturnal Rights reckons that Frizzell is the emergency lock in there. Can Luke Jacobson do that as well as an emergency lock? I'm not sure.
I guess if you got really desperate, you probably could, but I haven't seen him do that for a long, long time.
And then Sonny Pini for now is a travelling injury reserve. Oh, sorry, I forgot that far really. But yeah, we did think that they might do that instead. I'm not sure they need to have 6 back 3 players, but they have decided to go that route. But yeah, they kind of picked themselves. No issues there, I don't think. Into the back row, Sam Kane, Arnie Surveyor, Shannon Frizzell, no surprise. Luke Jacobson, Dalton Papulihi. Again, the only question here was, are you taking 5 or are you taking 6? If you're taking 5, I think they picked themselves. Finau did enough at the weekend to get himself that injury reserve place. And your players like Suakulas, Hoskins, Tutus, Kirioanis, who have all been tried over the last few years, have all missed out at the last one there. I think a bit of a surprise that when you think about all those players who have been given some, have been invested in quite heavily for that investment to be thrown away, and Finau to have been brought in, I think shows you that those players really have not, for one reason or another, haven't stepped up or haven't met the criteria that the All Blacks are looking for.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's probably a bit more advantageous just about to come in a bit later, isn't it? And kind of sneak in as the current squad member for Finau. But hey, he performed brilliantly in the weekend. What his personality and his fit within the players and the team is, who really knows? But performance-wise, he did pretty well. I mean, we've been down the Akira Ioane and the Hoskins to Tutu bus far too many times, and I have no issues with them being completely left to the NPC. Enjoy beating up on Southland and Tasman and all those other teams and thinking you're fantastic. But I'm much happier with those guys. I just think it's a bit light. I just think it's a little bit light in the back row when you've only really got one cover for position and no real six to cover. I guess you can mix them around, but very quickly you get into dire straits with one injury, or dare I say it, two. You go very, very poorly. And the way Sam Kane's been with his concussions or head injuries and that recently, okay, you lose him for a week. Okay, that's cool. You got Dalton can step into that, and then the Jacobson to the bench or something. But that's it, though. Then you kind of you're at your limit of players, and then do you bring someone else in? You know, does that when you bring Finau into the squad, because he'll obviously cover those the six if you need him to. Yeah, it's just it seems like it's just one player light. I would have just liked to have, even if it was Finau, because he's the guy, he's the one doing it. Just gives me just a little bit more comfort. Because why if Frizzell gets injured, what do you do to that back row? You sub to 6, Jacobson to 8.
It all comes down, or Jacobson to 6 and keeps Severe at 8. But it all comes down to how long is that injury for, right? If
Exactly,
is he out for the whole Rugby World Cup or not? But yeah, I think Ethan Blackadder, the one guy who's got unlucky here because through injury.
I would have him.
Yeah. Sorry, you'd have him in the heartbeat. Yep.
Oh, yeah. If Blackadder was fit and ready, he'll be straight in my team. At the expense of, I guess probably Jacobson would be the unlucky one, wouldn't he? Because you need a 7 with a 7, even though Blackadder's probably more of a 6, but you do need at least 2 like proper 7s. I guess Artie will probably consider himself capable of covering there if needed to as well. So yeah, that's what I mean. It's a very tough balance when you lose one guy and you're putting 8s and 6s and benches onto 8, and then you've got no one else. It just becomes very thin very quickly. And the problem is with head injuries, though, with Sam Kane is it a week? Is it a month? Is it 2 days? He's not broke his leg. He's not sprained his thumb. You know, we say, okay, you'll be good in a week. That's the problem with the head injuries. It's like, okay, you'll be right by the next match, and then you get a day out for the next match. It's like, no, he's not really all right. I think that's good that Finau's there because he's there. And it's like day before the match, he's not quite right. Okay, and you come. He's not flying over from New Zealand on a long trip. So, yeah, just a little bit light for me. That's about it. I'd love to see Blackadder there. But aside from that, yeah, it's the expected balance.
Locks or emergency cover for I and Barrett. Yes, but the other problem is that they've got to play lock, and you're going to need to rest some players at some point. So you're going to be a bit careful on that one there for that one. I was trying to say extra 2 players and squads of concussion protocols. Look, when we get to the back 3, I've got a funny feeling that they've gone with 6 rather than 5 because, they're so injury prone at the moment. Problem is, and are they actually, able to stay fit? Moving on then. So generally, I think we can say we're happy with the selections for the forwards. There's no one there that you would throw out and say you should not be there amongst the forwards. Into the scrum halves. Aaron Smith, Finley Christie, Cam Roy-God, we knew they were going to get selected because they were the ones in the squad. Brad Webber, as a travelling injury person, like, why do you need 4 scrum halves? I mean, seriously? And that seems... so I'm a bit surprised to see Webber travelling as an injury reserve. Now, scrum half is a very specialised position. First 5'8", you can throw in a Geordie Barrett or a David Havili to cover, I guess, in and out. But whereas you can't do that for scrum half. But even so, I'd have thought 3 would have been enough there, and you could fly someone over from New Zealand. But interesting they've done that. But money is obviously clearly no issue at the All Blacks level, so why not take an extra guy? But sod your community game as far as cash goes, or even someone who knows how to organise a live stream.
You stole my point there. I was going to say they need a couple of people that can start a live stream. That's what they should do. Leave Brad Webber at home. Well, Brad Webber will know how to start a live stream. He'll be the man. Hey, look, this is the one, like you talked about before, of positions. You're like, oh, how did he make the squad? But then what else is there? I mean, I look at Christie and I say, how did he make the squad? And then you go, what else is there? And it's like, Brad Webber, right there, ready to go. Yep. I mean, Flakatava, right there, ready to go for mine. I'll take either of those 2 over Christie. The weekend just kind of solidified that even more. He just, the changing game was it was starking to see when Aaron Smith come on. He made a massive, massive difference to the speed of that ball, to the way that they played, to just the impact of the game, just everything. And I like Roygaard. I'm happy Roygaard's there, but boy, there's just nothing in between. Aaron Smith, top of the level game. Roygaard, fresh player. Good to see him there. He'll learn a lot from this tournament and get a bit of game time. Christie's that guy that should be, if things go wrong, he can step up. I am just a bit concerned. Whereas I'm confident that Bede Weber, who we've got there in the list, I like that, will make that step up. I just noticed that. Does it suck how E is next to R? God, who made keyboards? Goodness me.
Exactly.
Yes. Give me Brad Weber, give me Whakatava in those orders above Christie every day of the week.
Yeah, I'm surprised Brad Weber's not there. But we knew, once we saw the squads announced earlier for the Rugby Championship, this was, we knew this was what was going to happen.
Yeah.
They would have to have done, have to have really tried to pull Ian Foster's daughter or something to have got themselves thrown out of this. Oh, and just or made a move on Ian Foster's wife and who go, oi. But they really have to have done something to have got themselves not out of this one. Not so much as I can't remember recall Smith ever being injured in his entire career. Well, look, he's had form drop-offs, but I think those sort of issues are behind.
He's had toilet visits as well.
Yeah, so that's why my form drop-off. Yes.
He did get injured last year. We missed him for a wee bit, end of Super Rugby sort of period. But no long-term injuries, month sort of things at longest. But I'm thinking that this plane, we've got this hypothetical, well, it's a literal plane in the end, isn't it, really? That's going to be going over to France. So do you think we can go over France and kind of detour a drop-off or even a parachute for Finney Christie at Scotland? And then just keep going, and Brad Weber can come forward, to first class in a seat from the baggage carrier at the back, and we'll just go back round and drop off at France on the way. How about that?
Some back row forwards get the get first class seats because they have more leg room.
They'll be at the back with the bags, the little half bags.
Yes, the little halfbacks get the have to
hold it up
get economy or economy plus if they're lucky. Okay, so there's our first issues around Finley Christie. But look, it's whilst I would have Brad Weber in there, I can. It doesn't surprise me with the selection that they've made. First 5/8 then: Richard Mo'unga, Damien McKenzie. On our earlier call, I said, is Richard Mo'unga perhaps the most crucial player in this entire squad because of what we saw happen at the weekend with DMAC at 10. You did a live stream earlier with the you did the live stream earlier where you said you asked all the people on the live stream who would replace Richard Mo'unga if he's injured, and everyone went Beauden Barrett, not Damien McKenzie. Look, both Richard Mo'unga and Beauden Barrett are leaving after this year. DMAC is the default number 10 for next season under Razor as head coach. So again, no one else. Brett Cameron, one cap. Brett Cameron. Josh Ioane, one cap for Josh Ioane. Stephen Perifetta has got one, maybe two caps. Look, there's been zero investment or effort to find anybody else. This is who they were going to go for the whole time, it's way too late to change your mind. This had to have been, and let's be honest, this is what they wanted at the last Rugby World Cup. They wanted Beauden Barrett at 10 and Damien McKenzie at 15. This whole 10-15 playmaker thing has been there for 5 years now, I guess, 5-6 years. So this is what they were always going to go for. But DMAC didn't do his. I think made a lot of people very uncomfortable head towards Rugby World Cup now.
Yeah, I mean, 100% they are. But like you say, that was their plan. They planned this a long time ago. They went with it early, and they've stuck with it the whole way through. And then who else is there? The reason there's no one else is because, like you said, no one else has been in the mix. There's been no other coming through. Roygaard's come through. What's happened to Ruben Love? Is Ruben Love the other guy at the Hurricanes? Another young, exciting player. I guess they play a lot of fullback now as well. But again, guys that could be in the mix if you want to develop. But I guess a year out of World Cup is not the time that you really choose to do too much developing. But we've got Roygaard in there. So lack of other option. Mackenzie's there because of that, and that's the only reason why. But yeah, I mean, that chat this morning had people from France, people from England, people from Ireland, Scotland as well, and of course people from New Zealand and Australia all in there. It was very multicultural, and let's be honest, the All Blacks brand is a very global sort of brand. They all knew. They all knew the situation. They all knew the players, and they all had pretty instant reactions to that as to who would come in if that was their team. But from an international experience, from their comments, this All Black side is getting taken notice of. It's as you kind of expect on their form, but it did surprise me how much people think this team's going to win the World Cup, not from New Zealand.
And look, a team that's there or thereabouts every single Rugby World Cup and hasn't lost a game this year. Sure, they've has won the Rugby Championship every single year since the last Rugby World Cup, for example, hasn't lost the Bledisloe Cup. So from a Cup's point of view, Ian Foster has been delivering. Sure, Northern Tours, Ireland Tour down here have not gone quite so well. So from a certain degree, you can see where they're coming from. Yeah. But yeah, there are a couple of very good sides in Europe that are going to stand that are going to be big obstacles for the Rugby World Cup. Anyway, so that's I say it is what it is. It's perhaps not as good a situation as we'd like to have. In the centres, then, Geordie Barrett, Rico Ioane, obviously, Anselin Brown, a guy who's had injuries and has been has come through those though, and then David Havili. Now, to me, this one was the surprise because he wasn't in the squad. He hasn't played any Super Rugby this year, I don't think. Has played one NPC game and gets into the selection for the Rugby World Cup. Now, is that showing us that basically the centre stocks are very thin at the moment, and they just don't trust the other players? Look, Quinn Tapia was obviously on his was being lined up for this, but he had that big injury. Jack Goodhue has been injured quite a lot over the last couple of years, and then you had Enor and McLeod. Now, I'll be honest, Enor, good NPC, decent Super Rugby. Is he international? Outside centre? I'm not sure. He's quick, but I'm a bit light. Dallas McLeod, well, he's had half a game, 3/4 of a game to try and prove himself, which shows you that there is a. I'm a bit surprised that Jack Goodhue hasn't been brought in and that David Havili has. Why do you think that David Havili's come in rather than Jack Goodhue when he's had even less game time this year? It was one NPC game.
He's their man. He is their man. He is a guy that they have had faith in for years, and they've kept selecting, kept picking, and kept playing him through this back line. I think we were here this time last week, and I said to you that they would pick Havili over Goodhue in the squad if they went with 5. They've ended up going with 4, and they've still picked him. So that Enor injury, I think, may have some sort of part in it, but I think as a versatile backline replacement bench guy, they really, really like him above all else.
Well, David Havili was a player that when he was playing fullback, they just refused to pick, right? And he was like, he's the best fullback in the country. Obviously, before Will Jordan came along, who is now the best fullback in the country and can't play fullback for the All Blacks. Havili, 2017 was when he first got selected, but they just didn't seem to have faith in him at all from that point of view. And then when he gets switched to centre, suddenly, they have gained faith in him since then. But he's still only got 25 caps. He hasn't played that much international rugby. I'm really surprised at this selection, to be honest with you. Look, he is a very good player, can also cover first 5/8 as well, as he has done at Super Rugby level. Not sure whether you'd want to start Rugby World Cup final with him in a 10 jersey, but he can provide cover there. But just having had no rugby this year apart from one NPC game, I'm amazed that he's in there. Okay, goal kicker, sure, but you're not picking someone to play centre for in Rugby World Cup squad because he can kick. Right.
He's got another couple of NPC games. He's got South Africa, or he'll miss France, maybe France off the bench, and then he's got Namibia, Uruguay, and Italy. All those matches, he'll be fine. He'll come off the bench. He's a 20. He literally is what the 23 jersey was made for. You got an injury in your back line? Just bring David on. Oh, but it's at this David. What's the answer? David's the answer. What doesn't matter what the question is. If it's a back line, David's the answer. That's literally it.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't have to play.
It's a bit harsh. I hope McKenzie doesn't have to play.
Totally out of form. There's zero form to go on here.
Form's temporary, class is permanent. David's all right. To take a leaf out of Shane's book, he'll go all right, mate. Don't worry, he'll go all right.
Oh dear. Okay. So that was what that came out of the blue that shocked me. The only one that wasn't part of.
Player is back from injury as well. He played for Waikato in the weekend just gone.
Is he? Oh, okay. So he's had one game back, but isn't quality enough, isn't class enough, eh?
He takes one injury.
Can cover 10. Mackenzie should be worried. Look,
yeah, I like it.
Mackenzie will start your kind of Namibia, or who are we actually playing again?
Namibia,
Uruguay is where DMAC will start. Other than that, DMAC won't be.
I don't even trust him against Italy.
I trust him against Italy as well. But you can only rest your key players so much. You can't rest. You can't just play them once in the group stages, right? But yeah, with Dave McKenzie, that's all he's there for. And David Havili will play again your Namibia Uruguay game, and that'll be it. But I'd say, as you say, maybe is that 23 jersey. So into the back three then. Will Jordan, one of those players that's a bit like a Ben Smith. You've got to have him on the pitch somewhere because he will be scoring tries. Now, he didn't score at the weekend, but he created. Mark Talia, I think in that in Bledisloe Cup 1, we saw him have a really good game. I think this weekend we saw why. We saw again that he had a good game. Bowden Barrett, again, like Richie Mwanga, massively key for this, how this All Blacks team works. As we saw at the weekend when he wasn't there. Let's find Uku. Look, come back from injury. Pretty much did okay. But again, I think we'll see that Mark Talia is ahead of him come the crunch games. Caleb Clark, why? But anyway, still there. And Amoni Narawaya. Now, the reason I think we got 6 rather than 5 here, because as you say, we could have taken a 6th back rower or an extra lock comeback rower, is because Leicester Nuku has been injured. So has Narawaya with the back injury. So I think they're just purely. I think that these backs are not are a bit crook. And again, if you don't take these guys, who do you bring? Because your 15s are Bowden Barrett and Will Jordan. So you're looking for out and out wingers. Sean Stevenson at the weekend showed us he's not an out and out winger, and showed us why he's not in the frame. Right? He's a very, very good 15, but he's not the type of 15 that the All Blacks want, and that's why he's on the out. Not because he's a bad player, because he's not the right kind of player for the jersey he wears. You then look at the rest of them and go, Sam Gilbert, AJ Lamb, Ruben Love, Nalisa Toro, Nona Nariki. Again, some good players there, but I think lacking the not really pushing for all black winger slots. Severis obviously would have been there bar injury, but again, I think a bit like when we're talking about the props. Yep, okay, happy with this lot. The next ones, I think the same here with the wingers to a certain degree. Is the next lot. So hence, yeah, this is these are the only guys up to it.
Yeah, I'm not worried about wingers when it comes to next year, because wingers literally come out of nowhere, and they are just the unknown ability is what makes them so good. The less you know about them, the less they've been around, the more dangerous they are. So I'm not worried. There'll be someone in Super Rugby next year who will just. I mean, look at this. Like Talia wasn't. I think it was fleetingly in the squad last year. Narawa was nowhere near it. Lester's been in and out like a yo-yo. So there's not much continuity in those wing spots anyway, of guys that are constantly there. But you know what really interests me the most about these back three for the All Blacks, the All Blacks website? Like, do you trust the social media outfit of the All Blacks after this live stream this afternoon? But first 5/8, fly halves, 10s, whatever you want to call them. Do you know who they've actually got listed? Have you actually looked at their actual list for 10s? They have named Beauden Barrett as a 10. Intriguing.
That Beauden Barrett will be wearing the 15 jersey.
I know, but why? Who writes this list? Who does this? This is official All Black documentation. Why is Beauden Barrett listed as a number 10? And it makes me go, why? He should be a back three. So you change that and put him as a 10, and that changes the complete build-up of your squad. And when you've only got 5 outside backs or back threes, you got 3 fly halves, it makes it look much more normal, doesn't it?
Yes.
Intriguing.
It does, but I think
watch that space.
So hang on. So you're trying to say that Beauden Barrett's going to be playing 10, and he's not actually going to be playing 15.
Damien McKenzie, get your 15 jersey for Namibia, my friend.
Oh, okay. Maybe for Namibia. Right, okay. Good.
I'm just thinking, if
Mo'unga
goes down,
you're not putting Beauden at 15. Wow.
If Mo'unga goes down,
oh yes,
we know he's going to. I mean, yeah, I just find it weird that they've actually listed him as a 10 on the official documentation of the squad for the World Cup. But I mean, aside from that, Caleb Clark, have some good wine while you're over there, mate. I'm not really too interested in seeing him. I agree with Nocturnal. He says I need to find a reason to play him. I don't think it's going to scare any French backs now these days, because these are probably bigger and stronger and faster than him anyway. And the rest pick themselves. I would have gone anyone. It's a winger. It's a winger. Like I said, the less you know about him, the better. Someone who's informed, someone's been playing amazing. You could chuck in there to beat up on Namibia. Sorry, lads.
Look, with David Havili, Geordie Barrett, Damon McKenzie, you've got masses of cover for 15. So to my mind, they had to. It's just out and out wingers you want. Did you? So to my mind, I'm not sure you needed 6 players there. I think you could have gone with 5. Told Will Jordan, look, you're an out and out winger. If Beauden goes down, we'll move a Havili or a Geordie or a DMAC there. But you are a winger now. You're not a fullback in our books, and you could have put yourself in with an extra back rower or an extra lock.
Yep,
I think is what I would have done. But there you go. That's just me. So cool. It does mean that actually they've now got enough players that can actually run opposed team back row moves, backs moves against each other. If you only got 5 back threes, you can't. But I'm not sure that's a reason to. I still would have put Finau in and maybe had your Caleb Clark as your travelling injury replacement.
And then you could put like Dan Coles as a back rower in one of the training squads to, even that up, because we've only got 5. He wouldn't mind. Neither would Cody Taylor, to be fair. They'll both do it. Problem solved.
Problem solved. So there you go. That's our views on the squad there. Which I think was, as I say, pretty much telegraphed as to what we were going to see ahead of time. Coming up then on Thursday, Tonga versus Canada. And at the weekend, Georgia versus Romania, Portugal versus USA, England versus Wales, France versus Scotland, and Chile versus Namibia. So reverse fixtures there for England, Wales, and France, Scotland. And will be interesting to see not just also the results, but also what selections they go with. Have they kind of agreed that they'll do? I know that England and France previously, going back to 2003, agreed that the first game, one side would choose its A team, the other side would choose its B team, and they would flip it for the seconds. I don't know if these countries are being kind of coordinating as much as that, but it'll be interesting to see what sides they do run out for these. And ahead of that, coming up then, and that's a bit surprised actually that teams like Ireland, Italy don't have games this coming weekend, but there we go. They don't. It is what it is. So cool.
Some sleep this weekend then. Sleep is for the week.
Oh, dear. You can sleep when you're dead.
Amen.
So thank you very much for joining me. Steve will be back next week at 8 p.m. To talk stuff. Maybe we'll do a World 15. Well, look, there's no games to review. There's no new squads.
There'll be squads by next Monday. You got Tuesday, Australia's Thursday.
Very New Zealand centric here. Very, very parochial.
So you got to look at the opposition as much as yourself. The threats
so
to our World Cup.
To talk about. We'll have a few games to talk about, and we'll obviously go through any other kind of news that's sort of bouncing around the rugby sphere. So, Steve, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, and catch you all next week.